Hans Fallada, 1893 to 1947, or to give him his real name, Rudolf Wilhelm Adolf Ditzen, was an acclaimed German writer, equally at home with novels and short stories. No stranger to the seamy side of life, he experienced drug addiction and served time for petty crime. Yet he remained sensitive to the plight of life's unfortunates. In today's very short stories, there are two: Mother Lives on Her Pension, 1931, and A Burglar's Dreams Are Off His Cell, also 1931. He tells first of an old lady, abandoned by her family, quietly subsisting alone on a meagre pension, but nobly content with her lot, while the second story is of a clever rascal, a burglar who dreams of returning to jail to escape the dangers of life outside. I'm Kim Dodsworth, Queensland storyteller. She is 76 years old, withered from a hard-working life. With a little bird's head, her loose skin bunches and bags over. Her voice has grown lighter and higher in the last decade, and she screams because she can't judge volume anymore. Her deaf ears no longer pick up anything. Even though she has 7 surviving children, she lives with strangers who have rented her the attic for 4 marks a month. She gets a pension of 35 marks, more than enough to live off. Only the winters feel terribly long and coal is unaffordable. She doesn't calculate by marks and pfennigs, but by the price of a loaf. When her pension is reduced by 2 marks, she says, "Just imagine, that's 4 loaves of bread. 4 whole loaves." Bread has always been the cornerstone of her existence. Everything has always revolved around bread. She knows better than anyone else what it is, bread, and she knows what it is to be without it. There were times when it came easily and willingly into her house and was never finished. There was always another slice to be cut from it. And there were other times when she could only see the glistening brown loaves in the windows of bakers' shops. Everything was topsy-turvy, and the children fretful. She managed to get through those times. She can no longer say how. Bread returned, not suddenly, but gradually. And there was again enough to go round. Then they invented a wonderful substance called margarine, which was so much better than beet syrup or the plum mush of yore. Yes, the world was making progress. Poor people were no worse off. They muddled along. God only knew how. She was never really envious of the rich, and rich for her began a long way down. Shop windows, dresses, fur coats, bright, happy, attractive women with soft, snow-white hands. That was another world, remote and unattainable. It was nothing to do with her. Her fingers, yellowish and rough, like the claws of a bird, are crooked now. She can no longer straighten them. For the whole of an endless life, they were always grasping some utensil, the handle of a tool, the handle of a paring knife. How many thousands of tons of potatoes she must have peeled in the course of her life. And she's still at it today, day after day, month after month. At 8 in the morning, she slips out of her garret, walks 10 blocks to the restaurant of her son. She sits there until noon, peeling potatoes and washing up, and in return she gets a meal. Her daughter-in-law is loath to give it to her. The old woman doesn't deserve it for the work she does. But here it's as well that she's deaf and doesn't hear the griping and cursing. Her son's place is going well. He has an opal. He is well fed and contented, often a little tipsy. "You leave Mamma alone," he says. "She's got an appetite like a sparrow anyway." She feels grateful to him, never having heard the proverb, "Who gives bread to their children and later falls upon hard times has no one to blame but themselves." She is glad her children have come to something. None of the others want to know. If she visits, she's sat down in a corner or told to go away. Mother has her pension, but the 7th, the one she never thought much of, because of course she had her favourites, the 7th is the best of them. She hasn't seen him now for 20 years, or is it 30, but he still sends her postal orders from time to time. 5 marks or 10, she puts them by. They'll give her a wonderful send-off that way. A good boy, even if she never cared for him much. At least once a month, she takes the long trip out to the graveyard to visit her old fella. He's been dead 11 years, but she still tells him everything, shares her life with him. On visiting days, she begs her neighbours for a couple of flowers. They tease her. She's to convey the regards of Frau Rohwedder. Is that right? Or Tony Menzel. As if. She wouldn't even tell him the flowers were a present. He's to think she bought them for him. Men don't need to know everything. He doesn't feel sad. He doesn't cry. With a light, chirruping child's voice, she tells him stories. Why should she be sad? Her children have grown up. She has a roof over her head and bread. Is there any more you can ask from this life? And now, story 2. He has 2 years of penitentiary behind him in Hamburg, and 5 more in Prussia. And the bottom line is that he doesn't much care for the Prussians. Their penal system is rubbish. A well-behaved convict doesn't even get to enjoy a kickabout. You have to crawl to obtain such privileges. When he goes to work now, he always takes a map with him, so as to make damn well certain he doesn't do a job somewhere in Prussian-administered Altona instead of Hamburg. Each time he passes the Nobis gate on the Reeperbahn, he reminds himself, commit a murder here is 15 years. One more step, and it's off with your block. When you see him, he's bound to make a decent impression on you. He's polished and polite, because in the course of his life, he's had to negotiate many difficult situations. He's a sharp dresser, because he mustn't arouse suspicion by looking shabby. He has strikingly dexterous hands, quick hands, clever hands. He needs those for his line of work. He's alert. How else would he ever get to be 30 in that line of work, with only 7 of them spent behind bars? He is, if called upon to be so, brutal. Caution and regard aren't much help when it comes to cracking safes. He has 2 passions, and 2 only, and that's his strength. Most people have more. One is breaking and entering. He's done that from when he was a nipper. Even today, he thrills to the memory of first cutting a window pane with a diamond at 13, climbing in and standing in his uncle's bedroom, listening to the easy rhythm of his sleep and fumbling for the dresser and taking his wallet. It was an impressive show of nerve for a 13-year-old. Sure, it got him a place in the Young Offenders Centre, but that wasn't so bad, and he learnt lots of useful things while he was there. Today, he disdains such crimes of opportunity. He doesn't mind taking up to 6 months, patiently scoping out a job. Ideally, he works alone. Use a leg man, and you always end up as the mug. He's popular with his fences. They give him sweetheart deals, up to 20% of the value of an item. He's yet to shop one of them. His second passion is women, an inclination, admittedly, he shares with most of his sex. Only that he won't stick to just one. The girls on the Reeperbahn and the Harbour District all know him. He's never seen or tried to find other girls. He can't be doing with the fuss. He needs women, but they're all the same to him. He doesn't distinguish between them. They're all stupid, all money-hungry, untrustworthy, loose-mouthed, only good for one thing. He's like a Muslim in that regard. He would laugh if you tried to tell him women were more than flesh. He reserves his hatred for the cops, but even more for traitors in his own ranks. If he happens to run into one, the world goes red. He will knock him down on the street, bite and kick and rip his ear off, smash his nose, till he comes to his senses in some station holding pen. His senses, yes, but never remorse. He's big on professional ethics. Don't attempt stupid jobs. Do good work. Cover your fence, come what may. Don't shop anyone or anything. He's a reliable fellow till it comes to divvying up the goods, where his watchword is, get more than your fair share. Afterwards, everything is sorted out. He's a sworn enemy to the respectable world. And so he goes through life, almost silent in the human crush, with little sense of participating in its needs and joys. But sometimes, in his off hours, when the police are on his tail, when he doesn't have an hour to himself day or night, or when he's just simply blue, he rides out to Oosdorf and tours the prisons at Fuhlsbüttel. He looks up at the barred windows and dreams of being inside again. In there is quiet, sleep without fear, regular meals, his own sort. Behind those lit-up windows, he's worked in the carpentry shop and made roll-top desks. Nice, demanding work, and not without its little touch of irony. Finally, he goes home to the big city, which has no home for him. Enemy to all, enemy to himself, with the dream in his heart of a barren cell. Well, I hope you enjoyed those two masterful stories of Hans Fallada, 1893 to 1947. I'll be back again this time next week with more literature of quality for you. I'm Kim Dodsworth, signing off for this week.